on my face. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. 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 Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी सामाईन, आप सुन रहे हैं सलाम बीसीआर। मैं आपका मेज़बान हक अनवार अल हक हमारे साथ। अच्छा, मैंने अभी देखो प्रोग्राम शुरू नहीं किया तो देखिए ये कौन है हमारे साथ, इतने बेचैनी से इंतज़ार कर रहे हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी, कौन?
यास्मीन बोल रही हूँ।
ओ मेरी बहन यास्मीन, मेरी बहन यास्मीन। अस्सलाम वालेकुम यास्मीन बहन, कैसी हैं आप?
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
जी, मैं अगर आप मेरे साथ 2 सेकंड ठहरेंगी तो मैं ज़रा अपने आप को, अभी मैंने प्रोग्राम शुरू ही किया तो मैं अगर इंट्रोड्यूस कर दूं तो फिर इंशाल्लाह आपसे बात करेंगे, ठीक है?
जी बिल्कुल।
प्लीज़ स्टे विद मी जी। तो सामीन, आप सुन रहे हैं सलाम बीसीआर। मैं आपका मेज़बान हक अनवार अल हक, जो कि आज जुमे का दिन, मैं आपको कहूँगा जुमा मुबारक। 6:05 हुए हैं और मुझे उम्मीद है कि आप लोग खैरियत से होंगे। कहीं भी हैं, सफ़र में हैं तो सही सलामत जाइए, घर में हैं तो हमारे साथ रहिए, क्योंकि आपको पता है कि आपका और हमारा साथ एक जीवन का साथ है। और मेरे भाई बहनें कहीं भी हैं, मैं उनको खुश आमदीद कहता हूँ। मैं टॉपिक्स शेयर करना चाहता था, लेकिन हमारी यास्मीन बहन ने गॉट मी ब्राइट एंड अर्ली, तो इसलिए मैं ज़्यादा ताख़ीर नहीं करूँगा। उन्हीं से गुजारिश करूँगा कि वो जो आपका टॉपिक है, एक टॉपिक जो है वो उसे आपके साथ इंट्रोड्यूस करें और जो उनके कंसर्न्स हैं वो भी आपके साथ शेयर करेंगे। अगर आपको कोई सवाल करना हो उनसे या मुझसे, तो आपको पता है कि हमारा नंबर 01612219872 और हमारा व्हाट्सएप नंबर यानी कि 0799026444। आप हमें सुन सकते हैं salambcr.com पर, और इसके अलावा project29.org.uk हमारी वेबसाइट का भी आपको पता है, salambcr.com। इस पे जाएंगे, आपको हमारी पूरी मालूमात मिल जाएगी, जो नंबर्स हैं वो भी मिल जाएंगे। और अगर हमारे साथ आप रहना चाहें यानी कि यूट्यूब चैनल पे, तो आप हमें सलाम बीसीआर के यूट्यूब चैनल पे भी जाके देख सकते हैं, सुन सकते हैं। बड़ी खुशी होगी अगर आप जब जाएँ वहाँ, तो मुझे उम्मीद है कि आप सब्सक्राइब ही करेंगे, क्योंकि इससे आपको आइंदा नोटिफिकेशन मिलती रहेगी कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं, कहाँ कर रहे हैं और क्यों कर रहे हैं। यास्मीन बहन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम
जी, वेलकम टू आवर शो। आई बिलीव, लेट मी हैव अ फिगर आउट। आई बिलीव यू आर डाउन साउथ इन द लंदन एरिया, आर यू?
नहीं, एक्चुअली आई एम बेस्ड इन मैनचेस्टर।
अल्लाह
जी।
आई गेट द स्टोरीज मेरी बहन, आई गेट द स्टोरीज ऑल रॉन्ग, तोबा जी। तो अच्छा फरमाए, ओके, इंट्रोड्यूस योरसेल्फ, हु आर यू, what do you do in Manchester?
I'm basically work for Unity Community, which is a charity.
Okay.
It's a voluntary group जहाँ पे हम लोग कोशिश करते हैं कि जितनी families जो probably refugees, asylum seekers, और even जो जिनके benefits नहीं आए हैं and they're in between benefits, तो हम उनको जो है basically मदद करते हैं जिस भी तरह से उनकी ज़रूरतें होती हैं। Usually it's more so कि पूरे महीने का जैसे राशन होता है वो हम उनको प्रोवाइड करते हैं।
Okay.
Which includes fresh fruits, vegetables, जो कि हम अपने टेबल पे चाहते हैं खाना, वही
जी।
हम कोशिश करते हैं कि ये फैमिलीज को भी हम दें।
ठीक है, तो आपकी ये सपोर्ट कहाँ से आती है?
हम लोग वेल वी हैव अ बैंक अकाउंट और हमारा वेबसाइट ये सब है, तो जो भी लोग डोनेट करते हैं पैसे हमें, तो हम उन पैसों से वी गो एंड शॉप for the best but the most reasonable products.
जी, आपकी वेबसाइट मेरी बहन कौन सी है?
End of the month usually हमारा food drop off, massive food drop off होता है. We buy for almost 250 people.
Okay.
तो काफी it's like a huge food drop off जो कि होता है. But अभी COVID की वजह से we have not done that. So what I have been doing is we just transfer a bit of money bank to bank to the families जो कि ज़रूरतमंद हैं.
What's your website called? What's the address for your website?
It's Unity hyphen community.
Unity hyphen
hyphen community.
Community.
Uh,
The reason why I'm taking it so that I can reiterate that once we finish our call.
sure.
Unity hyphen community
.com.
.com. So if by any chance I do get it wrong, will you please be an angel and WhatsApp text message me after this
Sure.
call, and
जी,
that, so
I
that I
will
have
do
the details.
inshallah
Then shall
बिल्कुल.
I can
और
I can reiterate all the details to our listeners. Yeah.
absolutely inshallah
जी.
I'll do that.
Okay. Acha.
और
So carry on. Carry on. What you do.
inshallah I will. And the other thing which I wanted to bring to notice, आजकल जो हालात हैं, आप लोग सबने देखा होगा न्यूज़ में भी काफी नाइफ क्राइम्स इस सब आर रैम्पेंट.
Hmm.
तो जिस तरह से बच्चे जो हैं अब टारगेट बन रहे हैं, आई डोंट नो वेदर आपने इंट्रोडक्शन करवाया है कि नहीं. आई प्रॉब्ली
Sorry,
जॉइंड
नहीं,
इन अ
मैं
बिट लेट,
you called me
बट
bright and early. I just came
you
onto
go
the
ahead.
show. I came onto the show and then you got me. You got me. So I haven't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I
You go
haven't.
ahead
I
and
haven't done
introduce
anything. I
your
haven't said anything.
the topic, जी.
Gigi. So go ahead. I'll let you introduce the topic. No,
अच्छा.
because I think you are obviously more familiar with it than I am. So it'd be really nice to hear from you, and then I can reiterate that afterwards as well.
श्योर, ठीक है. तो बेसिकली आजकल जिस तरह से नाइफ क्राइम्स ये सब जो हम देख रहे हैं न्यूज में, विच इज वेरी रैम्पेंट, एंड मैनचेस्टर में भी जो है आपने देखा होगा काफी न्यूज में आ रहा है. एंड ऑल्सो यू सी टीनेजर्स इन्वॉल्व्ड इन अ लॉट ऑफ दीज काइंड ऑफ क्राइम्स. तो इसके पीछे जो स्टोरी है मोस्टली इट रिलेट्स बैक टू ड्रग्स. और हम लोग जो है एज मुस्लिम्स, एज mothers and children and families, हम लोग यूजुअली जो है इन टाइप ऑफ टॉपिक्स को अवॉइड करते हैं अपने बच्चों के साथ डिस्कस करना, विच इज टोटली रॉन्ग. क्योंकि आजकल के ज़माने में जो है देयर इज नो टॉपिक विच शुड बी टैबू जो कि आप अपने बच्चों के साथ ना डिस्कस करें. बिकॉज अगर आप घर में नहीं डिस्कस करेंगे तो उनको बाहर से तो हर हाल में पता चलना है. Since there is no restrictions on media and there are no restrictions on people के जो भी अप्रोच करते हैं आपके बच्चों को. And the most important thing जो drugs related है कि अब आजकल जो the trend is these vultures and these people who are basically trying to hire young children from school. तो वो wait कर रहे होते हैं स्कूल के बाहर, and they try to lure these kids into supplying drugs for them. उनको कहते हैं runners. They are ज़्यादातर हाई स्कूल्स के बाहर होते हैं ये, एंड अब तो टीचर्स भी बाहर खड़े होते हैं, बट दैट इज नो गारंटी कि थोड़ी आगे जाकर के आपके बच्चों को कोई अप्रोच करे एंड दे वुड से we'll pay you, I don't know, £100 or even £500 if you could just give this parcel from here to there and just drop it off over there. So what we need to talk to our children about is ke, number one, you should never ever stop and speak to a stranger when you are walking back to back home, yeah, even going to school. Number two, you should always be careful कि even with friends, अगर कोई friend आपको कह रहा है, because आजकल किसी का कोई इस तरह से भरोसा, I don't want to sound very paranoid.
No. I think I'm totally in tune with you, and I'm listening what you're saying, and I totally find you're absolutely right, and I don't think we can. Yasmin Ben, I don't think we can over exaggerate the importance, and especially in this current climate.
Bilkul. And even with friends, I tell my children कि you should not blindly trust your friends कि अगर उन्होंने आपको कोई parcel दिया या कुछ दिया कि 2 doors down your lane, could you please drop this off? No, you cannot drop anybody's parcel off like that, because you don't know कि कौन कितनी हद तक के किस चीज में involved है. And everybody आपकी शक्ल पे तो नहीं लिखा होता है कि you're a drug dealer, but you need to be wise yourself and avoid any such situation which can make you vulnerable, and where people can approach you. Usually you should walk in groups. बच्चों को हमेशा जो है कोशिश करें या तो खुद से आप पिक एंड ड्रॉप कर सकें, अगर ना पिक एंड ड्रॉप करें तो they should always try to walk in groups and choose your friends wisely. जैसे इस्लाम में है कि आप अपने दोस्तों से पहचाने जाते हैं. It's really important कि आप किन लोगों के साथ हैंग आउट कर रहे हैं. वो बेचारा वो यूसुफ मक्की का जो केस हुआ था, which was very famous, where he got killed, he was Allahu alam kya uska actual story thi, but he was, hanging out with the wrong people,
Hmm.
and eventually it cost him his life. None of us as parents would want any such thing to happen with our children.
No, you're absolutely right. It was a tragic story, and then whenever, pata kya, pehle, I mean, in time back, not so long ago, it was normally a case where, because obviously I've grown up in the northwest here and very familiar
Ji.
with Manchester, and it was normally, black people which were associated, and that's what we used to hear, and unfortunately now the evil has come into that on our kids, from the Asian communities as
Yeah.
well. And I think parents have become lackadaisy in letting their kids go on school to on the bus or walking it on their own. And that you can never protect your children enough. I know you can be overprotective,
Hmm.
but in these current climates, one needs to be very observant and very careful. And
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right. I have experience where young people have said in that other kids, some kids are apne Yasmin Ben, some kids are much more world wise than others, and
Yeah.
even at the
But
same age,
the thing is, the kids who are not worldly wise are the ones who are targeted.
who are the victims, who normally become the
are
victims.
Exactly. And because हम पेरेंट्स जो हैं, हम अपने बच्चों को बहुत ज्यादा जिसको कहते हैं रुई के गाल में रख
नहीं
के
नहीं, you're
पालने की
totally,
कोशिश
yes,
करते
yes,
हैं,
yes,
where
yes.
they should not be touched by anything outside news, और बहुत protective रखते हैं, which is also a very wrong thing to do. You need to talk to your children about the realities and the facts of life. Today, I had a conversation with my children about this. You both are going to be, high school mein hain aap log, and you need to be very street smart when you are walking, where you are talking to people, because people pick up things from just listening to what you're saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
जो strangers on the road, जो ये खासकर जिनको I would call them vultures, are standing on the road listening, and they are trying to figure out कि इस बच्चे की weakness क्या है.
जी.
If, for example, if the kid is from a disturbed household हो, for example, या
Single parent
fostering
families, which are
fostering
many.
home से निकला हुआ हो, या he is or she is wanting money for probably a game station or whatever it is, तो ये सारे markers होते हैं for them to attract the children towards them.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, and also I think there's a lot of from our communities, Muslim Asian communities, there are a lot of single parent families these days as well, and
Yeah.
I think that's another one where a prime target children. Obviously, if it's a mother, she may not have in trying to keep the house together and keep things going, may not have the time to be picking up the kids, dropping off the kids. But I think you're absolutely right. It's very, very important. And you see, this is where, fortunately, I think we've lost our extended family culture.
True.
Grandparents and other relatives. People have time, and we had that. But now people seem to be, everybody is in need, and everybody is trying to just keep their head above water, especially with this COVID scenario, which has affected people's lives,
True.
and isolated people as well. I think it's not been a pleasant time, and I don't foresee, to be honest, and like you, I don't want to be a doomer and gloomer, but I don't see that changing in any time soon. And in fact, if anything, there are more restrictions being put on this family value system that we obviously had,
Mm.
and with the kids. So, what would
You know,
your what would
like they say, it takes a village to bring up children. वो
Allahu
पहले
Akbar,
होता
जी
था इस
जी
तरह से,
जी
and then
जी
everybody would keep an eye out for each other, and आपके बच्चे जो हैं कभी आपके neighbors के यहाँ हों, कभी neighbors के बच्चे आपके यहाँ हों, तो it used to be a very close community. Everybody is, like you said, struggling to make their own lives, be kept afloat.
ends meet basically,
So
yeah.
it is very difficult to juggle between these things, but obviously, child protection and child safety is paramount as parents for all of us.
You know,
And
the other thing, I mean, from the authorities where they are concerned, things like social services and so forth. Are you thinking? What's your feeling on them? Do you think they're proactive? They're understanding our needs. When they're involved with our families.
To be honest, I've recently had 3 or 4 cases where Muslim families के बच्चों को जो है social services आके ले गए
Hmm.
for not very serious reasons, I must say.
Hmm.
I was speaking to this person who runs these residential homes for children, जो social services जब ले जाते हैं बच्चों को तो वहाँ पे जो residential homes में place करते हैं.
जी.
And that unfortunately it does point towards a little bit of bias because of being Asian Muslims. And बच्चों को जो है unfortunately जब ले जाते हैं, either if they send the kids for fostering, then Muslim children most likely would end up into a non-Muslim household.
जी.
And things become very messy and complicated, and it's an emotional trauma that the child goes through as well. क्योंकि it's not easy कि आप अपने parents को छोड़ के किसी और strangers के घर में रहें, who don't even who are not even from the same religion, और उनके घर में पीना पिलाना है, and whatever things happen.
And it's sad that we as communities we don't seem to cater for the needs of our such families, and as you just said, once you've lost that child through the first parting of the from the family, then those people, as I mean, I know from experience and of knowing people, because I've been involved with this with the media, and then obviously doing stuff for the last 15-20 years. Once they get their hands into your family, then they don't let go. They really they want their pound of flesh, so to speak. And we need to be empowering our own people, where they are a source of support, and family support, family culture is very, very important. And as you said, with our kids, young kids, when they're vulnerable, especially 8, 9, 10-year-old, and then that kind of age, and then as you said, going into the senior schools, high school, it's a difficult enough time, people going through adolescence, and all the, and we have this, we live in a culture which is determined by games, and he has this, she has this, especially names, branded items and stuff, and not every family, Yasmin Ben, can afford those kind of things,
True.
And
which
then
also then these kind of kids who feel deprived or feel inferior are the best targets for people to violate them.
जी.
इसी वजह से it's not just कि आप कोई अगर एक बच्चा है जिसके पास सब कुछ है, then he will probably just be fascinated by this concept of gang culture, जैसे होता है आजकल के the kind of violent games that children are playing constantly on their consoles.
Xboxes
so obviously at a certain point in time the children feel, oh, you know what, why don't I try it out, and then they start joining these kind of chat forums, and where they start getting groomed, and obviously then one thing leads to another, and it's a vicious circle, and it's a very dark web. और ये हम सोचते हैं कि ओ हमारा बच्चा नहीं ऐसे कर सकता है. This is the biggest mistake of all parents. कि नहीं, मेरा बच्चा बहुत नेक. I used to be guilty of that when my husband kept telling me, don't fall into that trap of my kid cannot do anything wrong, because that is where the downfall starts.
Yasmin Ben, right now, the other thing that comes to mind immediately is, before this lockdown scenario happened, our kids used to go to the masjid, for the Quranic classes and so forth. Majority of them. And so you knew, although I'm sometimes against that, because I think our kids also need social time, free time. They come from school 3:30, 4 o'clock. By the time they've chilled out, half an hour, whatever, 5 o'clock, they've got to get to the masjid, and then finish at 7 o'clock, come home, have something to eat. When do they do their work? When do they have a bit of a chill out time? When do they go to bed? And those certain things. But in the last year, 18 months, 2 years now, a lot of masjids haven't had the kids in that environment, and so it could, in a way, when I look at it, it was a bit of a blessing that your kids are constantly occupied, from one place to the other, and now they've had obviously time. And I've known parents who've and it really shocked me when they said, in order to get what we want to do, which is, they want their children to study and do all the things, like, in just improving themselves for the life ahead. They're bribing them in sense to with these kind of games, as you said, the Xboxes, and they were waiting. Would you believe it? I never thought I would hear Asian parents waiting till 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes when these games are released by whatever. I can't understand the logic of that either. But parents waiting to get their very first hands on the Xbox or whatever for their kids, so they can have the toy that everybody has at £500 or £600. And then so the kids are doing then the educational kind of academic work that you want them to do. What do you say to that? I mean, the way parents are being, are they parents being blackmailed, or are the parents blackmailing their kids?
I think it's going both ways. I mean, children would always push boundaries. उनका काम ही है, बच्चे हैं, and they want to see when does it all stop? When do the parents put their foot down? But parents, on the other hand, पता नहीं, maybe because they're guilt-ridden कि we can't give enough time to our children, तो चलो उनको, instead of giving our time, which is more constructive to the children, they would buy, consoles or ये और वो, just to get over the guilt of not being able to spend time with the kids. Maybe. Yes, people have to earn, like आपने पहले कहा था, there are single moms who are trying to keep everything together. Which is understandable, and मगर ये है कि you need to draw a line where you stop yourself from spoiling your child to an extent कि फिर no is not an answer for the child. जब माँ बाप अगर no बोलते हैं, then that causes rebellion. उस level तक के ना पहुँचें, और उससे पहले you set your boundaries straight. कि इसके बाद जो है, this nonsense will not be tolerated. The discipline, there are various ways of disciplining a child in a constructive way. ये नहीं है कि मारा पीटी कर रहे हैं. जैसे why do social services immediately take Asian, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi बच्चे quicker than the Gore? Because mostly एक बच्चों में जो है, they go and complain in the school, oh, my parents hit me, and that's it. I do know कि yes, other nationalities also do hit their children, but then this needs to stop. There is a positive way of bringing up children in a healthy environment जहाँ पे बच्चे know their boundaries and they will keep pushing it, but you need to be, आप parent हैं, आपको अल्लाह ताला ने that darja diya hai of a parent, which is, there is a reason for it. And you just can't willy-nilly, बस ऐसे ही पल जाएंगे बच्चे, ऐसे नहीं होता है. You have to have rules and regulations in place. Some people call me very strict with my kids, but if you ask my kids, I am like their best friends. But when somebody listens to, how my children deal with things, they feel that they're more mature now than the same age of their own children.
Yasmin, the other thing that a common group that we're both in, I received this statistics regarding abduction.
Yeah.
What's that about? I wasn't even aware of that.
Yes, it is all because of trafficking. And it is Allah bachai, but it is very common now. It's also because of ek to drugs is a reason, pornography is a reason, selling children for sexual needs is a reason. So there is a lot of bad things happening, which is why the abduction rate in UK has gone up. Because there is money in all of this.
The figures are astonishing. 2017 to 2018, it was 1,189. Then 2018, 2019, 1,268. And 5 years prior, it was just over 500. I mean, one child being abducted is too many. But these kind of figures, and I it shocked me when I'm sure you'll be familiar the things that were going on, and they're probably still going on in Pakistan. With the abduction of kids, and then the gruesome stories that came around outwards afterwards. It's enough to make your heart bleed for the families, and the way they callously report them was also something that I found very disturbing. Naming names and naming the families where they live and exact details. That was harsh. That was really harsh.
True. And they keep repeating, showing the face of the kid, and it's inhuman. The way media deals with these kind of stories, it's appalling. Back home, especially. Over here recently, when the girl who was found in the woods with, I think, 114 stab wounds or something, that in itself was a very disturbing news. But then also we need to know that there is a lot of mental health issues going on, especially with the lockdown and stuff. People have not been able to do things that they would normally do. So it's become a way of venting. And also, again, I come back to that. Be very careful in who you take as your friend. And Islam, there is a reason why mixed gatherings are looked down upon. There's a reason why the concept of having a boyfriend or a girlfriend is not allowed, because all these have always had a negative impact. This girl who was stabbed 114 times was stabbed by her boyfriend. Now, हमारे जो माशरा है, it's important that we have to inculcate these values in our children, the Islamic values, and we have to stick by them, and we have to represent them. We are the best examples for the younger generation.
Yasmin Ben,
So
you just said something, and I have grandchildren who are now 8, 9, and coming up to 11. The twin girls, 11. They'll be going to high school next year. And and it's a worrying thought. And when especially a couple of years back, when they were bringing in, sorry, I'm gonna a little bit digression on the school content, where again our children, Muslim families, but I think I hold Muslim families, they're letting themselves down because they're not proactive in getting involved with the schools, during normal terms and parents' evenings and so forth. They just don't seem to have time. With this sex education and at a very young age, and people, their rights to know everything, and the schools having the right to teach the kids whether we like it or not. And there was a bit of a hallahu, in the Birmingham area, as I remember, and many a school were then vilified because their parents, held their ground against it. But inevitably, the schools decide. Do you think our overall communities are kind of thinking along the same lines, that we must, our Jewish cousins, they seem to have everything wrapped up. They have it, they know exactly what's happening and how to deal with it, and they have organizations, youth organizations, they have in their religious organizations, they have their cultural groups, and everybody seems to back each other, and they know what their requirements are, their needs are, and they get fulfilled. If the government isn't fulfilling them, then they do it themselves. But they are well versed in what their needs are. But we seem to be so fragmented, and which is the tragedy for IC. We're so fragmented with that we just don't have the unity, we don't have the cohesion, and everybody seems to be working on their own. Is there any way ever that we people, when I say we people, Muslim communities, regardless of whether you're from Pakistan, whether you're from India, or you're Bangladesh, whichever part of the world you're from, we are now living in the UK, and this is our country, and we must make it known in no uncertain terms that this is where we belong, and we are equal partners in the welfare of this country and its laws and so forth. But I find that even our political kind of leaders, or not lead, I wouldn't say they're my leaders, I'd say representatives. They let us down. They let us down, and and we seem to be in that same frame mind of people. It's just like Pakistan, because that's where I originate from. in voting for your relative or from your village or somebody that you know, rather than what their criteria is, what they're standing up for, their values are, what their political stances. We don't have that. So, is there any way, do you think, that our communities, Muslim communities, will ever, or can they, can we do something to encourage that we form, these kind of groups which look after each other and the interests of our families particularly?
You know what? That's $1 million question. क्योंकि जो आपने सही कहा कि we're so fragmented, और कोई एक बंदा कुछ लेता है तो उसके खिलाफ 10 और बंदे जो खड़े हो जाते हैं मुसलमान
Mm.
कि ओ ये हराम और वो हराम, and then जलसा जुलूस निकालते हैं. I mean, there is no intellectual body as such,
Mm.
unfortunately,
Mm.
who can take this case up all over nationally in UK. There is one association who are dealing with SRE education, and they're doing a fabulous job, I must say. कि वो they are empowering not just their organization, but they're empowering parents with sample letters कि जो हम अपने teachers or head teachers को दिखा सकें, and then have a discussion with the head teachers what Islamically is allowed and what Islamically is not. I went to my daughter's school. There were very few Muslims over there, and when Christmas time when I tried to tell them कि भाई she can't really say Jesus is Lord because we don't believe in that. Now, ठीक है ये लोग religious education ये सब पढ़ाते हैं, but they don't really know the. Unfortunately, I felt that I am talking to people who had no clue in what they were saying, because they kept saying, "Oh, she could just move her lips
Mm.
and just pretend." So we need to inform and we need to relay the right message to the schools. We should, like you said, we should have a body जो कि school to school जाए annually on a regular basis. Obviously this group would need funding, which is another issue. जब इस्लाम पे बात आती है तो लोग जो है पैसे देने से इतना हिचकिचाते हैं कि as if they're going to go bankrupt. But the important thing is that these kind of things, institutions and bodies, they do need funding, and they should have the sole purpose in educating the head teachers and the school teachers on what we believe in, what we can teach our children. And just say in my case, I asked the teacher, "What are you going to teach?" I let my kid attend that class, but I said I'm going to pull her out from this section to this section of the class,
Mm.
because that does not confirm with my religious beliefs.
Mm.
Which you can do. You can pull your kid out of a few things in the SRE education.
Gee, but
But
you see, that's
ये
dependent
है
upon
कि
the.
हमें if we don't let them know what we feel and what our religion says, they are not going to go and pick up a book on their own.
No, no, no. You're absolutely right. And then you see, this is what I'm saying is a lot of our parents seem to be reluctant to have a one-on-one with the school, normally headmasters, because they're the one the decision makers, and it just filters down. You just talk to your school teacher and you'll not get nowhere. But if you're talking to the headmasters and the authorities collectively, then I think they can be very understanding, and they're tolerant, and they're understanding of our values. But we need to be vocal on that. And I mean, but one thing that disturbed me was that there are schools that I know of which are predominantly run as, for example, like a Catholic school or a Protestant. That's their motto. But they're running as private organizations, and because they're private schools, 90% of the children at that school of like that, because we Asians value education. But the first thing was, it's a Catholic school, so the first thing that they did was teach them, have a service in the morning, and which was about the Christian faith. Now, what are our parents saying to that? That their children go in first thing and they praise Jesus and do all the hymn singing as we know they do. And these schools are run as businesses by Asian parents. Asian own these businesses, but they have the motto is that it's a Catholic school or a Protestant school.
Yeah, this is
So money,
it
it's
is
just money.
very big concern, क्योंकि बच्चे जो हैं they get trained from childhood.
जी.
एंड अगर आप उनको जो है, आई would not, I can't say anything on that because I don't want to sound
जी
very
जी जी, surely
um,
surely surely.
politically incorrect. मगर ये है कि ज़रूरी होता है, एक तो भाई देखें, आप हाई स्कूल के बच्चों से, अभी मुसलमान बच्चों से अगर आप पूछ लें कि आप नमाज पढ़ते हैं या आप रोजे रखते हैं, तो आपको ना में जवाब मिलेगा मोस्टली, विच इज़ वेरी शॉकिंग। अगर ऐसे बच्चे कैथलिक स्कूल में जाते हैं और सुबह को जो है वो सारे हिम्स गाएंगे, तो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इस्लाम आर दे गोइंग टू कैरी फॉरवर्ड एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ अ जनरेशन आर दे गोइंग टू ब्रिंग अप? बिकॉज as far as I see, Islam is dying in their hearts and minds.
जी
And the parents themselves are not bothered because parents खुद जो है बच्चों को रोक रहे होते हैं from oh you have your exam, don't fast, you know, इस तरह से। अगर आप इस तरह के क्राइटेरिया सेट करेंगे रोजे रखने जो कि फर्ज हैं, तो फिर then आगे चल के what guarantee, oh you know I'm tired, I'm not going to fast.
yes 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 yes. Yasmin Ben, we could go on, and it's been real pleasure that you did make the call finally after my many requests before. I don't know for what reason I thought you were in London.
I used to be, but then I've moved to Manchester.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Hopefully, we'll hear more from you from now on with topics. And I can't reiterate enough is the purpose of Salam BCR. The reason why I set up this thing was to give a voice to people. Then it has to be because what I've discovered is that people, the indigenous communities, aren't prepared to involve. Oh, what my God, my microphone was off. Sorry, sorry about that. I don't know. Like I said, why our people don't seem to be, or they are reluctant to get involved in media and give a voice. What would you say to them? People, anybody that has
I
a
think everybody should get involved, and because there's so the biggest gap मुसलमानों के लिए is the lack of representation in media, and they should start from like your radio station, and they should go on to जितने भी media हैं, outlets हैं, there are so many ways of relaying your message, and media is the biggest
tool.
communicator these days,
It's the biggest
what
tool.
we've seen in the recent days as well.
Gee,
So
I'll
I
just give
think
you.
everybody should speak up, and everybody should, at least just pick up the phone and, like we had a discussion, should be free to discuss these kind of things.
Mary Band, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure
Jazak.
having you. We're going to take a commercial break shortly and then have Azan, Asar Azan. So I hope you'll get in touch with us again. And anytime you have, this is an open platform, like I said, an open invitation to you and many of our listeners that if there is ever an issue that is concerning you, that you think people need to know about and you want to talk about it, if you don't get a voice anywhere else, you will always get a voice on Salam BCR, Mary Band. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah
You
khair.
take care.
Assalamualaikum.
Remember, send your duas, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. और
Waalaikum
अपनी उस वेबसाइट का भेज दीजिएगा मुझे अपने ना व्हाट्सएप
जी,
पे, ठीक है? ओके,
जी।
टेक केयर, अल्लाह हाफिज़, अल्लाह हाफिज़। जी, तो ये हमारी यास्मीन बहन जिन्होंने फ़ोन किया, she caught me red-handed, just moving on to the program, but I really appreciate it and thank her very much for taking and issues that we've mostly highlighted are concerning people. So if there's anything, my dear brothers and sisters, मेरे प्यारे बहनों भाइयों, एक बार फिर मैं आपको खुशामदीद कहता हूँ। मुझे एक ब्रेक के लिए जाना, इंशाल्लाह आएंगे इसके बाद quickly, and then we'll go to commercial break. 4 मिनट के बाद अभी हमारी असर अजान होगी, तो okay, we'll continue for 2 minutes, then we'll have a break. So what I'm saying is that if you have any issues, आपके पास कोई भी किसी किस्म की concerns है, life overall here, it doesn't matter what it is. You might not think it's not important for other people. If it's important for you, then we want to hear about it. We want you to give you the time. At the end of the day, many a thing we just, especially in our Asian communities, we just dismiss them, and we dismiss them very lightly, and then they become major problems and hurdles in our very near futures. So now us, then our kids, and so forth. So if there's anything that is concerning you, that is you find that means a lot to you, and you need to talk to the community, then Salam BCR is your platform. Please stay tuned. Inshallah, we'll be back after the break and the commercial break and the azan. So take care, and I'll see you when I see you. And I'm hoping, oh, by the way, before I go, I'm hoping that we'll have Brother Kareem, scholar from Pakistan, will be talking about, hopefully, about the issues in China, with the Muslims there. And the recent, the remembering the Bosnia massacres and so forth, and everywhere else. And I'm hoping that will be something that'll we don't want to revisit, but it's harrowing stories. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we empower our people, educate them that this is what's happening. And it could be your son, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, it could be you. So you need to be in tune with that. Stay tuned. You listen to Salam BCR. मैं आपका मेज़बान हक अनवर अल हक, मेरा और आपका साथ रहेगा इंशाअल्लाह 9 बजे तक. सुनते रहिए Salam BCR. GT Tires and Motors. Part 1 and new tires.
GT Tires and Motors.
Parts for all makes of vehicles.
GT Tires and Motors.
Full fitting and servicing.
GT Tires and Motors.
All your motoring needs now under one roof. GT Motors, 2 York Street, Bury, BL9 7AR. Phone 01612